Good morning. We'll get started in just a minute here. This is Virtual PBX dash admin training. If you're a vConsole customer, we no longer do the live trainings for the vConsole. However, you can find a recorded training on our website, so virtualpbx.com. Mouse over support and select vConsole support, and you'll see the training videos there, as well as the written guides for the various features for vConsole. Likewise for Dash, if you mouse over support, go to Dash support, you'll see a previous recording for this training, as well as the various written guides. And since we just hit 10 o'clock, let's go ahead and get started. So you should be seeing the Dash login page, which is dash.virtualpbx.com. Your username is going to be your email address. So if you just signed up, that's going to be the email address you signed up with for your account. If you were just told, hey, you're in charge of the phone system, then it's the email address that your the other admin set up for you as your login information. Password hopefully was sent to you via email. And then the account name is going to be typically your company name. Obviously, if you're just an individual, it will be your name here probably. I usually recommend people just click on Remember Me, so that way they don't have to remember yet another password in their life. Otherwise, you can click on Forgot Your Info. Let's go ahead and get signed in. All right, and this is our dashboard page, basically giving you a snapshot of your system. Now, if you've just signed up, the first time you log in, actually the Dash Wizard will pop up to try to walk you through a few things. Maybe I can talk today. And normally that's going to start you off here on your account information. And the main thing that people change here would be the time zone. Make sure they're in their appropriate time zone. And you can also go to your user information here to adjust it if it's different than the account setting. Also, I'm using a test account, but on a live account, there's a separate section here for your billing information. So you can update your credit card information, for example. So once you're done with going through the wizard on this, just close up here, top right, and then you're back here on the dashboard. All right, total users, number of people on your account who are making and receiving calls. Total devices, all the devices that those users are making use of, and a breakdown. So soft phone, software application, usually on a computer. It can be on a tablet, can be on a smartphone. But basically that application is making and receiving calls, usually using your internet connection. The web phone is a specialized version of the soft phone. In this case, it makes use of Firefox or Chrome. So you can use those browsers to make and receive calls. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. A SIP phone, that's a type of VoIP phone. This is a physical phone that sits on your desk, and you make and receive calls. Just so you know, so VoIP, right? So voice over internet protocol. So VoIP phones, right? That's the broad category. A SIP phone is a subcategory of VoIP phone. So you might see other kinds of VoIP phones on the market. If you're going to want to use it with us, you want to make sure it is a SIP VoIP phone. And then landline, pretty self-explanatory. The unregistered devices, 25. So these are the VoIP devices that are not connected to the system right now, meaning we can't send and receive calls from them. Total numbers, these are your phone numbers on the account, 43 in this case, which is quite a bit. And these are phone numbers your customers call in to reach you, right, to reach your system. Assigned numbers and spare numbers. So an assigned number is a number you're using, right? It could be one of these main numbers, the conference number. It could be a number that's going directly to a user or to a ring group. etc. A spare number, it means you're not actually using it right now, but you're keeping it on your account for future use, or you would just been using it for a promotion. That promotion's over, and you just don't want any calls on that number anymore. Now, depending on your plan, will determine how many phone numbers are included in your plan. Right? So anywhere from 1 to 15, I believe, is the current range. So once you go over the allotment for your plan, each additional phone number is $4.99 per month per phone number. So something to keep in mind. USB ID versus US toll-free, right? So toll-free, 800 number, 877, 833, etc. USD ID means just a local number. So a number in San Jose versus a number in, say, El Paso. You can also have international numbers. If you are interested in having an international number on your account, you're going to want to email porting@virtualpbx.com and include the city and country that you want a number in. And the porting team will let you know if we need additional information. Some countries require documentation before they'll let us have a number. Conference bridges, basically the number of users you're allowing to have a conference. In this case, 5. Main number. In this case, we have 4 main numbers. So these are numbers people call to reach our system. These numbers will all behave the same way. They'll all have the same main greeting, for example, and they'll have the same initial routing. Conference numbers, these are the numbers that we use to make use of our conference bridges. And you can have multiple numbers. Fax box number, you can only have the one fax box number. And this is so you can receive faxes. It also enables having a fax box on the account so you can actually send faxes out. The company directory, which you can download, basically shows all the users and their extensions. Store discount code. So just by being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our web store. You can access that up here. The online store. And then the account realm, you use this for a couple things. First, to program a VoIP phone that is not like it's not auto provisionable, right? So a physical phone, and you didn't see it on our list of approved phones, so we'll get to shortly, or for a third-party soft phone application, so say X-Lite from CounterPal. The other reason the account realm is important is for sending out a fax, right? On Dash, it's an email to fax system. So you create a new email. In the to field, you put +1, an area code and phone number of the number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, your account realm, and then you attach a PDF or a TIFF file to that email and send it out. Bear in mind, only one attachment per email. So if your email automatically attaches, say, a signature file, you want to remove that first because if multiple attachments are detected, the system won't send out the fax at all. So that's our dashboard page. Now, over here on the left, we have the main navigation through various features of the account. And these are all included features up here. We have this menu icon over here to the right, the 3 horizontal lines. And some of the features here, like ACD queues, these are add-on features, meaning there's a cost associated with them. Others are not. Right? Some of these are just added later. Like blacklist is an included feature, but it didn't make it to the left hand. All right. Up here, we've got caller ID. So this is your main company caller ID. It won't show up on here because of the streaming software, but all your main numbers are available. And then you have the company caller ID name or CNAME. This is restricted to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. That's an industry standard. Once you put something here and click Save Changes, that information is transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes about 3 business days for them to be updated. And then once you make outbound calls, the CNAME information should show up. Now, not every carrier supports CNAME. That's a business decision that those carriers have made. We can't make them. which means if your call happens to route through one of those carriers, your CNAME information doesn't get through to your destination. Even for the carriers who do support it, if they're having some sort of issue or even like extremely heavy call traffic, the CNAME information may not get through. Like, say, election time in your location or the location where you're calling to, it may not get through. Down below, we've got your company emergency information, or E911. So you want to make sure you have the correct address here. Now, this is for your company's, like your headquarters, right? You can have different E911 for your devices or for your other phone numbers as necessary. And then if you make any changes, click on Save Changes. All right. Hold music. You can upload your own file. Just needs to be a .wav or .mp3. Under 1 megabyte in size, I do recommend recording in mono, since when you listen over the phone, it's a mono device. We've had some instances where customers uploaded stereo files and either got a lot of static, or in one case, I had a customer, when they uploaded a stereo file, they only heard silence. Like, it says nothing has been uploaded, just dead air. One thing to keep in mind about hold music on dash, it's basically defined as call gets to a user. The user then, after probably talking to the customer for a while, presses hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this hold music file plays, right? In terms of calls coming in, the inbound caller is going to hear ringing. All right, then let's go over to main number, because ours is actually a part of main number. All right, so main company numbers. You have all your numbers here. You can click on a gear icon so you can set up the caller ID for each of the individual numbers as well as the E911. Prepend for a main number. This this is more of a VoIP phone feature. You can add additional caller ID text to your main numbers that gets transmitted to your VoIP phone, so it shows up on the caller display with that additional text, right? To give your staff members a heads up about what's going on or what the call's about. You can add numbers from your spare number list here, right? Either of these two numbers, or you're like, oh wait, we're expanding into a new region, so you say, hey, let's buy a new number, and let's see what's in, say, 703. There may not be anything just because 703 is a UB. Oh, we got some. So then you can click add, and you can add multiple numbers at once if you want. Then you would click buy numbers. System is verifying the number was still there, and then activates it. And then after it loads, boom, it's there on the account, ready to go. Now, if you want to remove a main number, you can unassign it. However, that hasn't deleted that number from your account. It just simply removes it from a main number and puts it under your spare number list. All right, next up, we have the office hours strategy. So by default, new accounts are on a 24-hour open office. However, you can set custom office hours, put a check mark in front of the day of the week that you're open, and then set your hours in 24-hour or military time, and you can select it from the drop-down. Oh, that's one other thing you do under, right down here at the bottom, if your facility is closed for lunch, you can put a check mark here, and the system will automatically then close you during your lunch hours. Right. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark. Then you add a holiday, single day, date range, or advanced. Right. Single day, pretty self-explanatory, right? You give it a name, and you select a date. Date range, like you have here for Christmas, right? So you select the start date and the end date, you're in holiday mode. And then advanced is like this retreat here where you're saying, hey, the first Friday in July, we're on holiday. And you can, the pull downs aren't working, but you can select, the second Monday or what have you. Main thing to keep in mind is that no year is indicated on your holidays. So you do not want to have a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. That basically puts us in holiday mode the whole year. And when you're done, you just click on Save Changes. Incoming call handling. So for calls that come in on your main numbers, how do you want the system to handle calls that are coming in during your open hours? You also have holiday hours here. If I had the custom office hours in place, then I'd also have after hours and or lunch hours as available tabs. So first option, call comes into the virtual receptionist, right? Basically, call comes in, a greeting plays, and then when you click on the virtual receptionist, you can adjust your greeting and the menu options that your customers can play or press. Second option here, call comes in, you're offering it typically to somebody or a group of people, right? So users or groups. You also can send it to call queues if you have queues. You can send it to a particular device. And I believe you can also send it to a media file. Yeah. So basically, like a greeting will play. And then it goes, but most people, when they choose this option, it's either they're offering it to a particular person or a group of people, like they're operators, right? If they're not able to answer it, then it goes to the virtual receptionist where the inbound caller can press the menu option. And then the third option here, call comes in, again, offered to a group or a person. You can have a media file play. You can send it to a specific device. But if the call is not answered, then it goes to a voicemail box. You also have the option at the very bottom here of just skipping to voicemail. So call goes straight to voicemail. Now, if we click on the virtual receptionist, and then over here on the left is your main menu, right? So these are the buttons on the phone that your customers press to navigate through your phone system. And then on the right, you have your greeting option. Now, you can add additional routes by clicking Add Route. Unfortunately, this pull down isn't working either, but anywhere 0 through 9, and then you can select where you want to send it to. So you can send it to the Smart Directory. You can send it to any of your users. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to a specific media file, and also voicemail box. Caveat for sending it to a media file is after the media file plays, the call ends. There is a way around that, but it requires some advanced configuration, which you'd have to work with our account services team and our DevOps team. Basically, there might be a charge associated, there might not, I don't know. That's something, basically depends on the whole scope of what you're trying to do. In terms of your greetings, again, text-to-speech, you type in a greeting, you click update, and that's ready to go. So basically computerized robotic voice. You can upload your own file, right? Just find the file on your computer. Should be a .wav, .mp3, under 1 megabyte recorded in mono. If you've already uploaded recordings, this pull down will show your available options. Recorded over the phone. So you can call in, and this is by default set up to work with a VoIP phone on the account. And so you call in the main number, and if you don't have a greeting in place at all, you just enter in the PIN number right away, and the system will walk you through recording over the phone. If you already have a greeting file in play, right, so we'll call that greeting A, you can call in. When that greeting A starts playing, you enter in the PIN number. Then you start, it'll walk you through recording it. So the file name greeting A stays there, it is kept, but the content of greeting A is changed to whatever you just recorded over the phone. Now, if you want to record via a cell phone or a landline, you would need to send an email request to support@virtualpbx.com stating that you would like to be able to record your main greeting with an outside line. We'll then enable that, and you can then record it over the phone. Basically, the reason of having it by default to a white phone as a security measure. We don't want random people from their cell phones calling in trying to, guess a PIN number and get it. Professional recording services. We've partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. When you click order, it'll go to their site. They have 100 voice actors to choose from, both men and women. They have different versions of English available. I believe they have different versions of Spanish and French available, so you can have multilingual greetings. They also have their own packages for like hold treatment, right? So music, then a script is read, then music, etc. They have their own pricing. They deliver it via email, and then you can just upload the file. The settings here, so number of retries on this dial. Basically, inbound caller keeps pressing, say, option 6, which isn't a valid option. So after that second time, in this case, the call would end. Now, you can have a default route in place. So after that second time, then the call would go to that default route. We don't typically recommend that just because robodialers are so prevalent. So basically, that would allow robodialer to get in and get to, say, a voicemail box and use up more minutes on your account. Now, if you make any changes either on the main menu or the greetings or both, or even the settings here, right, you click Save, but you also need to click Save Changes here. If you don't do both, then essentially, your changes didn't get saved, but it doesn't revert back. It just says that the menu for this option has not been created. Now, this virtual receptionist link is the same. So just keep that in mind. Now, your holidays, right, you still have the same options, but the virtual receptionist can be completely different. Right? You probably have a different greeting just because of the holidays, for example, and same for your after hours, but you can have the menu options go to different places as necessary. All right. Main conference numbers, you can have multiple phone numbers. These are all just going into your conferencing. You can have your own text-to-speech greeting here. You can add from your spare numbers. You can buy additional numbers if you need to. The main fax box number, you can only have the one fax box number. Now, this is a test account, so unfortunately the fax box is not working properly. But on your account, if you click Edit Fax Box, it'll show you a box with two fields that you can enter information into. The first field, email address, right? That's the person or the lists that you have on your side that's going to receive the faxes, right? It's going to be a PDF file for any fax that they can then open on their computer or their phone and take a look at. The second field is if you have your own company domain, right? So at abccleaners.com, that's your company's email domain. Everyone who works for you has that email address, or an email address that ends in at abccleaners.com. You can add that domain in that second field and click Save. Then anyone with that email, right, or ends with that email domain, they can send a fax out via email without having to be a user on your Dash account. Like you have an intern for the summer, they have your, intern at abccleaners.com email address. They can send a fax out without you having to add them as a user. And the reason you might want to do that is because you're on a per user plan, so adding a user increases your bill. And if your intern's only going to be sending faxes out, they don't need to be a user. All right, numbers. It shows your numbers on the account. First round numbers in use and where they're going. You have a little gear icon here so you can adjust the caller ID, the E911, or the prepend as necessary. The spare numbers, these are numbers you're not using. If you want to remove one of these, right, you put a check mark and now it's got this option to delete. I can delete that number. It says yes, you've successfully deleted, and then you continue. And now I just saved a little money on my account per month. Right? You can still buy numbers here. Again, local toll free, same as like I showed under the main number. For toll free, right? You just find the toll free prefix. And you can add it and go from there. And if you add it into your spare numbers, then you can move it to wherever you need to. But usually for most people, it's more efficient to add the number directly wherever they want it, right? So as a main number or on a user. Port, this refers to moving a phone number from, say, AT&T to VirtualPBX. You can start a new port request, and this will guide you through the steps. The main thing is we need a completed letter of agency, or LOA. A blank one is in that port process that you can download and fill out. It's also on our website. And when you fill out that LOA, when it's asked for the company information at the top, it wants to know, or what it should be is what your current carrier, so say AT&T, has on file for you. So like say with AT&T, your XYZ cleaners, but with VirtualPBX, your ABC cleaners. On the LOA, you want to put XYZ cleaners, and then whatever address they have on file for you, etc. Now, it also asks for the authorized signature. It does need to be a signature. It can't just be typed out. It can be a digital signature. You don't actually have to print it out and sign it and then scan it back in. You can just use a digital signature. And then we also need a recent copy of the bill. Just scan that in, or if you have it via email, forward it. If you do through the port process, right, it'll automatically go to our porting team. But you can also just email porting@virtualpbx.com with both those documents, and we'll still handle the port request. All right, users. Shows all your users on the account. You can add a user. You give them the name. You'll put their name. The email address they use for login, that has unique per user, right? So people can't share support@virtualpbx.com. They each would have to have their own. And then you create a password. The main extension number can be any number you want it to be. On this system, I started off with extension 1000, so 1027 is the next available extension in that series. But if I wanted to, I can make it, 7202. By default, voicemail box is always created with the user. I do recommend this. This voicemail box is then intrinsically tied to the user. Like i.e., if they have voicemail, it'll show up on their white phone saying, hey, you got a new voicemail. The other thing I say you should always check is this one here at the bottom, send credentials to the user, i.e., so they can log into Dash on their own. Up to you if you want to include in the user directory or set up an alternate address, and then you click on create user. Now, the little gray person icon, that means that's your standard user. A person with a blue suit, those are your admins. If you click on a name, go to the name box. Right, so you can always change the name. You can change their credentials, i.e. their email address or their password. If your user has forgotten their password, again, you could just change it for them, or you can just click here, and that'll send the password reset email to them. Of course, they could have done that themselves by clicking on forgot your info. Voicemail box PIN. If you're using VoIP phones, you don't need to set up a PIN number for the voicemail boxes. Your users can do that themselves by picking up their VoIP phone, dialing *98. And the first time they do that, the system will prompt them to create a voicemail box PIN as well as set up their own voicemail greeting. If you're using a landline or cell phones, then you do need to create a PIN number for your users. Here you've got the option to send an alternate email address. So this will be in addition to the login email address. And then you also have here the option to include in the user directory or remove them from the user directory. Here is a pull down where you can change a user to an admin or an admin back to a user. If you've just signed up, please, and you're the only user on your account, please do not change yourself to a user, right? If you're on a single user system, you're the admin. So please don't change yourself to a user. Time zone, you can set the time zone for this user if it's different than the account default. Language, English, French, German, and Russian are the language to choose from. The ringing timeout, this is how much time the system will try to reach out to the devices on the user. The default is 20 seconds, which is usually plenty of time for, say, like a landline or even a VoIP phone. However, if your user is, or if your users are using cell phones, you're going to want to increase that to 45 seconds or a minute. It simply just takes a little bit more time to route a call to a cell phone. Right? Basically, each time you get a call, your cell phone provider has to find you first. Right. Users can have multiple extensions if necessary. And you would just add an extension number. You just put it in the box. Phone numbers, users can have their own phone numbers. Right? So this number would bypass your main numbers and go straight to this person. And they can have multiple phone numbers. They have little gear icons here, so you can set the caller ID and E911. Right, devices. You can have multiple devices on a user. If you click on new device, okay, so we'll start with SIP phone. So these are, again, physical VoIP phones that sit on your desk. We have these manufacturers. These are the ones that Dash supports what's referred to as auto provisioning. You would click on your manufacturer and then find your phone. Once you do that, you would then, it ask you to name the device and enter the MAC address. That's a sticker on the phone itself on the back, typically speaking. And then you would click on create device and then save changes. Now, within Dash itself, that's all you need to do. But on the phone, you need to find the phone, get into the phone, the web user interface, and enter in a URL. And we have these instructions on the support site. Basically, what that does is it tells the phone, get on the internet, go to this URL. It does so. The server on the internet says, hey, what's your MAC address? Transmits that information. The server says, oh, I know, what device you are, and I know what account you're on. Here's your configuration information. Sends it down. Your phone reboots a couple times as it adds, applies that configuration file. Usually it reboots twice from what I've seen. And then after that, it's ready to use. You can make and receive calls. It'll show up as a registered device, etc. Now, if your phone doesn't show up on that list, then we're gonna skip down here to soft phone. Read that message, but then click close. And then you would use these credentials here. Right, so you give it a name, then you use that SIP username, that SIP password, and that realm to program your phone, right, that didn't show up on the previous list. And then that way it can at least make and receive calls. Likewise, if you're going to use XLAT from Counterpath, you would use these credentials to program that soft phone application. Now, VirtualPBX, we do have our own soft phone app. So if you want to use that, you would see right here where it says use third-party application. You click on that. So now it flips it to use VirtualPBX application. You give it a name. You click on create device. And then you click on save changes. So now what would happen is this user would get an email saying, hey, you have a soft phone. Here's your login information. And then they just need to download the app to their Android or iPhone. Right? Use those login credentials. They're good to go. If you want to use the soft phone application on a desktop or laptop computer, that is available. However, there is a license fee required for that. The list price of that license fee is $39.99. You can order that through the web store. But then once you've done that, you'll get a download link to download to Windows or Mac OS. Cell phone and landline are basically identical, so we'll do cell phone. So basically, you give it a name, put +1, area code and phone number, and you click on Create Device, and then you click on Save Changes. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. So this is the default how a cell phone or a landline starts off on. So when Dash offers a call to a cell phone or landline, right, the phone will ring, you pick up, you'll hear a message saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Right? By pressing 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there and ready to take the call, right? And then it connects the call to you. If you don't press 1, then it's going to go, the call will eventually go to your user's voicemail box. Now, that doesn't work for every instance or for everyone, right? In some cases, you're actually sending a call to, say, like an automated answering service. Well, your automated answering service can't press 1, so that your inbound caller would never get to your answering service. To get around that, you would click the box here to put a check mark in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that does is now you don't have to press 1 to accept the call. Basically, you pick up, call gets connected, right? So if it's sending to an automated answering service, they ring, they pick up, our system says, hey, you're connected, here's the call. And your automated answering service then handles the call. Now, if you're actually sending it to your cell phone, then what can happen is the call goes to your cell phone, you're not able to pick up. Let's say you're driving. And so instead, your cell phone voicemail picks up. Well, that's still a connected call as far as Dash is concerned, so that inbound caller ends up on your cell phone voicemail. Some people are fine with that. Some people don't want that at all. Purely up to you. Another thing is this one here, keep original caller ID. So by default, this is checked, which means when call gets sent to your cell phone, right, the phone number that shows up on your caller ID is that other person's actual phone number. Now, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of telemarketers and political calls, and I want them all to go away. But a way to help you with that would be this. If you uncheck keep original caller ID. So what happens then is when the call gets sent to your cell phone, the phone number that shows up is going to be one of your phone numbers on your Dash account. Right? So like your main number would show up as your caller ID. So that way you know, oh, this is a business call. This is not some random telemarketer trying to sell me, the latest, whatever. But basically, that's just an easy way to let you know, hey, it's a work call. The other device you want to add through here would be the web phone. Again, it's kind of soft phone. Like you just give it a name, you click Create Device, and then you click Save Changes. What that does then is it adds the web phone to the user. That person can then go to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It's going to have a login page there. That login information is the same as their Dash login, right? So same email address, same password, same company name. And then they can make and receive calls. Additionally, once you've added a web phone to your user, right, the web phone comes up as a link here, would open up in a new tab, and you can just log in. All right, user features. All right, first one is caller ID number. So this only comes into play for your users that have their own phone number. If you enable it, you can select whichever of their numbers that they have, and that will show up on their outbound caller ID instead of your main number. Call forwarding. This is basically saying, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal phone. Send calls to this other phone number. Right, so you've got off, failover mode on. Now, so if I have it on, I'm sending it to this phone number. Now, this phone number should not be a device on my user, right? Because it's not a phone I use every day, right? Just occasionally I need to use it, i.e. my personal cell phone versus my work phone. Now, failover mode is good for VoIP phone users because basically the system detects when your phone is connected to it, right? Registered. So if it detects that, oh, hey, your VoIP phone just went offline, and you happen to get a call in at that time, the system will automatically forward to your cell phone in this instance, right? So then you get the call, you help the customer, and then you can find out, okay, what the heck happened to my VoIP phone? Did I lose internet? Did the dog just happen to rip the cable out of the phone? What have you. Also, for call forwarding, your users can set this up themselves. You don't have to do this every time. They're like, oh, I have an appointment, or I'm going to several different sales locations. They can do it themselves. They can either do it from their VoIP phone, the feature code. They can also do it through the user portal, right? So they can log into their own user portal and set it up themselves. Hot desking, this is another VoIP phone feature. This is if you have an office environment where people have to switch desks from day to day, or even if they have to temporarily switch a desk, right? So like they're doing some kind of construction right near your receptionist, and they can't hear anyone who calls in because there's a saw going off behind them, whatever. So you move your receptionist to a different area. They have a different phone than their ones that's at their desk. This allows them to log into the phone that they're sitting at to still get their calls, right? So you enable it. You give it a hot desk ID. I normally suggest use your extension numbers. Up to you if you want to include a PIN number. But then when you click Save Changes, when you sit down at the VoIP phone you're going to sit at for the day, you pick up that VoIP phone, you hit *11. The system will then ask you for your hot desk ID. You enter that on the phone, and then your calls will now be sent to that phone that you're sitting at. At the end of your day, you pick up the phone, hit *12, then the phone will act its normal self, right? Tomorrow you come in, they're still doing construction at your desk area. You're like, really? You go over to where you were sitting yesterday, but someone's already there. You're like, oh, man. So now you have to go into conference room C and use that phone, but you can still, again, pick up the handset or hit the dial, hit *11. You log into that phone, and you can still get your calls, even though you're sitting at a completely different desk for the second day in a row. Right, voicemail box, active with any user when they're created by default. Fax box. So users can have their own individual fax box. Generally speaking, if you enable this, so you have the option here of using a phone number or an extension. I usually recommend making use of a phone number. This might be a reflection of my age, whereas I go to a fax machine, I hit the phone number, I hit send fax, I walk away and go get a cup of coffee, or go back to my desk for a while and then come back and see if the fax went through. If you use an extension, what that person faxing has to do is go to the fax machine, dial the number, your main number. They have to listen, so they have to have like the handset. And when they hear the greeting, they enter in the extension number that they're faxing to. Then they hit send fax. I know I would mess that up at least once or twice before I'm like, oh yeah, to do the extension number. I also don't know how well that works with an email to fax service coming into VirtualPBX. So that's why I said, it's just easier if you have a separate number. And then also sending a fax out, and just create an email, +1 area code, phone number, @ your account realm, attach it to it for PDF. Conference bridge basically shows your conference numbers, your personal conference room number, and then you set up the PIN number. Okay, follow me. This is for users with multiple devices on their user. Now up here, you've got the ring duration for all the devices. Just so you know, the first time we'll disable it. Now we'll go back to follow me. So if I enable it, this is the default look when you enable it. So if I just click save changes right now, any call that comes to this user is going to go to voicemail because all the devices are set to do not ring, right? So I need to determine which devices are going to be wrong, right? So I'm like, okay, we'll use, say, these 3, but now they only have a 0 ring time. Now, the easiest thing to do is just click distribute, and now it's going to ring each of these numbers or these devices in order, and I can change the order, right? I can click and drag, and then I can click distribute again, and now it's going in the order I want it. But these are sliders, so I could do things like this. So say I want all the phones to ring together the whole time, I can do that. So now when a call comes in, all 3 of my phones are ringing at the same time until I pick up on one. One thing to keep in mind when you have like a cell phone in the mix, like I have here, that cell phone might ring additional, like if I pick up on the cell phone, the VoIP devices might ring an additional 1 or 2 times just because there's a slight delay in terms of getting the signal back from the cell phone to let the system know, hey, the call was picked up. And that will vary depending on the day and the call traffic, and et cetera. Music on hold, users can have their own music on hold file, i.e. like your salespeople might have can have a customized music on hold versus say your support people for your billing. Right, you would just enable it, you would upload the file, .wav.mp3 under 1 megabyte, and again, I recommend recording in mono. You just browse the file, you click upload, and then you click on save changes. Customize call recording. So let's set this back to default so you can see what it looks like the first time you get in. All right, so if you enable it and click Save Changes, you actually haven't done anything really, right? Because the account default is set to off. And that's because there is a storage limit involved, and if you go over your storage limit, you have increase to your bill. That's why it's set that way. But now, for the types of calls you want to deal with or that you want to have recorded. Inbound internal means my coworker Bob called me, right? So someone within the system called him into me. Inbound external means my customer called in, right? So someone outside of the system called into the account. Right, so that means outbound internal means I called Bob back because we need to talk about fantasy football on company time. We also had a mutual customer that we had to help out. Right, outbound external means I'm calling a customer back saying, hey, Bob and I figured out what went wrong with the order. We got it all corrected. You're good to go. Now, and then you just turn on the recordings that you want to have on. And I would say actually most of the time, people are more concerned about their external versus the internal. You don't need to change the format, and then you just click on Save Changes. Boom. And then lastly, you have Do Not Disturb, basically means send callers to voicemail. All right, groups. This is shorthand for ring groups, basically departments. You can create a group. You give it a name. You give it an extension number. And then you click and drag the people you want to be in the group. And then you click on Create Group. Now, once you've created a group, you can click on the name. You can change the name. And then you have dialing repeats. And there's these little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease it. And basically, this is the number of times that inbound caller can ring through to all the members of the group, right? So in this case, I have 1 means everyone gets offered to call once, right? If I set it to 2, everyone gets offered to call twice. Or I can delete the group. If you click on the members box, all right, you've got a ring duration here, 120, and you've got all the people here, kind of like following me calling, right? You can change the order around as necessary. You can hit distribute again. You can also set the ring duration for everyone to be the same, right? Etc. So that way everyone's phone rings at the same time until someone picks up. Up to you how you want to do it. So basically, ACD queues are an advanced version of ring groups because you have different routing options. Right? This is a very basic set of routing options. But there are a couple advantages. Ring groups, your callers can get calls on cell phones as well and landlines as well as VoIP phones, whereas queues are strictly with VoIP devices. There's also no charge involved for a ring group. Ring groups can have multiple extensions as necessary. They can also have a phone number. Right? Queues can only have a phone number or an extension, at least currently. Again, you can buy some spare numbers, or add some spare numbers, or buy a new number. And then you've got group features. Okay. So first one, ring back. So I have a 120-second ring duration in this group. I can have a music file play, again, .wav.mp3, recorded in mono, up to 1 megabyte, right, that I can upload. So I can have that file play back while my customer is waiting for one of my staff members to pick up the call. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is I want this file to be at least 120 seconds, right, to match that ring time, because the system will not automatically loop the file for me. All right, next action, basically my staff members weren't able to pick up the call, whether they were all on calls already or, you know, some of them were busy, some of them just weren't at their desk, what have you. What do you want to do? In this case, I'm sending them to Bob's voicemail box. I can send them to other users. I can send it to a different group. I can send it to a specific device. I can send it back to the main menu, right, the virtual reception. But the most common is a voicemail box. Right, allow call forward. Basically, if you enable that, you're saying, hey, my users can make use of the call forwarding feature, so that way they can get calls even if they're not at their desk. All right, so just click enable. That's good to go. And then caller ID prepend. This is again for your VoIP phone users. If there are multiple groups, right, you can put either additional text or numbers, and that lets your staff know, oh, it's a call about this product or this particular, like it's a support call versus a billing call. All right, the devices, these are all the devices on the account. Green means it's connected, i.e. we can offer a call to it. Red means it's not registered, so we can't offer a call to it. If you disable a device, then the device turns black. You can click on the wrench icon to double check settings. Right, you can change the name, etc. Change who it's assigned to. You can add the devices here. But again, if you're going to use the VirtualPBX soft phone or the web phone, I say do that on the user, so that way it's automatically set up for the right people. All right. Voicemail boxes, shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. If there's information in the user field, that means that's a user-created voicemail box, i.e. when you created the user, the voicemail box that was created with that person. So these are intrinsically tied. You can create your own voicemail box, i.e. for a ring group, right? Give it a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN. Then create a new voicemail box. You can click on the wrench icon, especially for a newly created voicemail box. You can upload a media file, or you can call in and record to it. The temporary greeting media, that will play as long as there's one selected, right? So it'll override anything under normal media. But once you change this back to none, then the normal media file will play, i.e. Mary went on vacation, so I have to put in her vacation one on the temporary. Okay, now she's back, change this back to none, her normal voicemail greeting starts playing. All right, recipients for any manually created voicemail box, you'd want to put an email recipient here, so that way someone knows that a voicemail was received. Voicemail boxes are limited to 100 messages, so that's why you would want to make sure someone knows so they can check those messages. Because if a voicemail box is at 100 and someone else tries to leave a message, they get that message saying, voicemail box is full, please try again later. Then we've got the other options. So once you have a greeting file in place and the recipients enabled, I would say just click already set up. And then you have this option down here, delete after notification. So by default, especially for your users, for example, right, when they get a voicemail in the user voicemail box, they get an email automatically with that file, right? So they can just double click on the attachment and listen to the voicemail message. But even for any manually created voicemail box, as long as you have a recipient, they're going to get that file via email. So you can click delete after notification. So once that email is sent out, the system will automatically delete the voicemail box on the system, so you don't have to worry about hitting that 100 message limit. Now, if you and your staff are great about checking voicemail, then you don't have to worry about this, and you can leave that unchecked. Greetings Manager basically shows all your greetings on the account, your name. The source is either recording, TTS, which is text-to-speech, or upload. You can download a recording so then you can listen to it to see if it's something that's still relevant. So you click on the little wrench icon. You can either change the name or delete the greeting. Call logs basically show all the calls that have come in or out of the system. Right, so green arrow to the right means the call came into the system. A yellow arrow to the left means it went out of the system. And you can download this. Will be an Excel file. You can click on a particular call and get some greater details. Actually, here, let's go with this out. There we go. Right, and you can see here, oh, okay, call was offered, looks like in the queue to a web phone. And then you can see what happened. Right, typically speaking, you want to see normal clearing. That means as far as system's concerned, the call ended normally. You can click on this little fire hydrant. This will create an email with the technical details that you can send to support. Just give us a little indication of what the experience was for you, i.e., this says a call came to me, but my phone didn't ring, so that we can take a closer look at what's going on. Then we got the feature codes. Again, these are just essentially keypad shortcuts on your VoIP phones that you can make use of. However, this one right here, check voicemail, you can do that from a cell phone. You can dial into your main number and then hit *97. The system will prompt you for your extension number and then your voicemail box PIN. All right, up here at the top right, you've got the 3 horizontal line icon. Right, so we're on the dashboard. Over here, we've got ACD queues. So ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. These are basically more powerful versions of ring groups. You can create a queue, and I'm just going to go in here to the queue settings because this is basically the same. It is the same information. So you give it a name, a call-in number, or an extension. Now, You can also still have a menu option go to this queue, right, from your virtual receptionist, but this is just direct access, typically speaking. Your queue routing strategy, fortunately, my system is not showing you the options here. Round robin evens out over time. There is least offers, right? So whoever's had the least amount of calls offered to them gets the next call in. Least calls, meaning the least amount of connected calls, right? So Bob is talked to 2 customers, Mary has talked to 5 customers. The next call that comes in is going to go to Bob. And then, least or most idle. So whoever's been waiting for a call the longest will get that call. That's the 4th routing option. Hold treatment, you can upload a file, media file, right? So .wav, .mp3, quarter to mono. Queue timeout, how much time people can wait on hold, measured in seconds. The queue call limit, basically how many people you're allowing to be in the queue. 0 means there's no limit, but like I can put 10, that means only 10 callers can be in a queue at the time. Timeout immediately if empty. If I have no staff members enabled or logged in, and I enable this, basically the system is treating it as if people, when they come into the call, they already hit the queue timeout. Now, once I have a staff member logged in, then the person will wait on hold. Escalation queue, if you have multiple queues, right? So say the queue timeout comes into play, you can send the call to a second queue, i.e. the first queue people were all busy. You're having heavier than expected call volume. Send it to a second queue. Now, if you don't have one selected here, then say, hey, the 600 seconds comes into play. I'm sending it to this voicemail box. Agent behavior section. Agent recovery time, measured in seconds, basically how much time after a call will the agent have before they're offered another queue call. 300 seconds is quite a long time. Normally, it's like 10 seconds or 30 seconds. Force away on miss or rejected. Basically, if an agent misses a call, the system will put them in away mode, and they have to manually put themselves back in ready mode. And then agent connect timeout. How much time are we trying to reach that agent? In this case, 20 seconds. And here you've got some basic information about the queue and its status. This here is your members icon, and this is where you manage who's in the queues. Right, so you click on Manage Members. So these are the agents available. These are all the people who are in queues already. Right, if I wanted to add someone, I can add Bob. It looks like I have both queues. So this is under ACD Queues Pro. Or ACD Queues. There's also ACD Queues Pro, which is a more advanced version. They have some additional features. But once people are assigned as in the queues, we can go back to the queues themselves. And if you click on it, right, I can add more agents. So these are the people who are available. All right, so I just click and drag, hey, I'm putting you on here, and then save changes. And so now I have more potential active agents. For your agents, right, so they would mouse over here, get the ACD queue. They would click on Begin Session. And by default, it puts them in away mode. Now the little phone icon, they can select which phone they're using. And it should be a VoIP phone or just select all for all the devices. And then when they're ready, they mark themselves as ready to take a call. And now they're green and ready to take a call. All right, so when a call comes in and David's on a call, his little color here changes to blue. If he marks himself away, like he was originally, his little color changes to red there. If he's on wrap-up time, it changes to gold. And And if he's on an external call, it's going to be yellow. And then end the session at the end of your day. All right. Next up, we've got blacklists. So blacklists basically allow you to create a list to block members from reaching your system. So you would click on Edit Blacklist. You would either add to create a new list, i.e. you have not created one before, or you just click on an existing list. You change the name. Block anonymous basically means if we're not getting valid caller ID and you turn this on, we're going to block the call. And then you add numbers, +1 area code and phone number. Right. And then you would click add and then save. You go back to settings, and then you want to make sure, whoops. All right. And then you want to make sure the list that you're going to use is under selected, and then you would click update. And once you do that, the phone numbers in your list, when they try to call any of your phone numbers on the account, they get a busy signal. So they can't waste any more of your time. All right. Any admin, you can get to any of the fax boxes on the account. So you can see if they have any inbound faxes, any outbound faxes. You can also see the email to fax log to see, hey, why didn't that go through? Click on the little eyeball. It says, hey, that was an invalid fax number. Right, maybe they hit the wrong digit. The monitor, this allows you to see what your staff is doing, at least in terms of their phones. So like the browser is getting forward. All right, so anyone who's green, they're waiting for a call. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Yellow, they're on an outbound call. Red means they've marked themselves away, which only really applies to queues. And then gold, they're on recovery time, which again, only a queue indicator. Oh. And you have other options here to see who's available as well as see who's busy. The recording manager takes you to the recording manager site. It uses your Dash login information, and then you can see your call recording. Reports is currently in beta, so I don't have access to that. But basically, it takes like the call log information and makes it more granular and like easier to get information out of. As far as I understand it, that's going to be an add-on feature, an added cost. Now the user portal, right? Every user has their own user portal. If you don't have delete after notification enabled, then you would see your voicemails here, so you could, listen to them, delete them, etc. Call history, you can see the history of calls that have come in or out of your user. If you have a fax box for the user, you'll see their faxing history. The contact list will show all the contacts within your Dash account. You cannot add your own or upload your own. This is just strictly within your account. So you can see the various extensions, etc. Conference, this is where a user would manage their conferencing. So they have to have that enabled, obviously. But they can invite people to an existing conference, right? Other Dash users. They can lock a conference so people can't randomly join it. Mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the call. If they're in a conference itself, you have some options under participants, right? Because you're probably joining in as a moderator. Like you can mute a specific person, you can kick a specific person, for example. Settings and devices. Again, this is where users can turn on their own call forwarding or turn it off, right? So you don't, as an admin, you don't have to do it for everybody. And then voicemails, you can get to any voicemail box on the account, i.e., someone, you get notified one of the voicemail boxes is full. You find the voicemail box, and you would check and see if they do have that many messages, and then delete them as necessary. Lastly, there's webhooks. This is if you're going to make use of APIs to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in that, we do recommend you talk to our sales team. There's some specific steps, and they also have like white papers and whatnot to help you make use of that. And that is everything. I'm going to go back to the dashboard. Sure that gets loaded up. But yeah, I'm going to wait here for another minute or two, see if anyone has any questions via chat. Seeing any as of yet. And if you don't have any questions, I thank you for your time today. I hope you have a wonderful day. As I said, I'll wait around for a minute or so, see if anyone has any questions. All right, not seeing any questions come through. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you for your time today. And as I said, I hope you have a wonderful day.